So you've heard of Viviva Colors, but you're probably wondering if they're actually worth the hype. In this video, I'm diving into a full review of all the Viviva Color products that I have, which happens to be their spring pans, their original pan, and the original color sheets. While I share my thoughts, I thought it'd be fun for you to watch some painting, so I decided to paint something that I thought would incorporate all the colors that I could, and I came up with some fun, simple fruits. During this review, I'll cover how the colors perform, their vibrancy, how they mix, how they glaze, how they layer, and whether or not you can lift with them. I'll also let you know which papers I think work best with them. And probably the thing you're most curious about, I'll let you know whether or not I think they're worth the investment. Plus, I'll share what I love about them, what I think could be better, and whether or not I'd recommend them. So if you've been curious about Vivivia Colors, or just want to watch some fun painting, stick around. Okay, right off the bat, I want to address how it's pronounced. And I'm not 100% sure because there isn't a lot of brand education around this, but I know it's been difficult for people to say it. And if anyone from Viviva team, you know, sees this, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's Viviva Colors. So moving forward, if I don't say their brand name because it's kind of hard to pronounce, I'm just going to say these paints and know that I'm talking about the Viviva Colors. Okay, let's get into the review. So the first thing I want to hit on is the cost, because these paints are, I would consider them to be a little more expensive. And they're not exactly professional grade watercolors, but they're definitely not student grade. I feel like they're a lot higher than student grade, but I wouldn't put them in the same category as Winsor & Newton. So when it comes to cost, I compared the price versus how much paint you get, which there was a lot of conversion that had to happen because the Viva, they deliver their how much paint you get in grams, and it's 0.8 grams per pan. But a lot of other paint brands, they go by milliliters. And I think this is because Viviva is giving you so little paint that it wouldn't look good to put it in milliliters. But I had ChatGPT do some conversions and do the math, and it turns out that Viviva colors are roughly two times more expensive than a high quality brand like Winsor and Newton. And this is just not based on their quality, based on how much paint you get when you buy their products, because you don't get that much. I think when you open the product, you can see how thin each pan is. And I went through them, I would say pretty quickly. Within 3 months, I hit pan on almost all of them. So just keep that in mind when you're purchasing this, because I'm not saying it's a bad deal, because obviously I've purchased 3 products from them. So I like something about them, which I'm really excited to continue to share what I do like about them in this review. So up next, I want to talk about their packaging and their presentation. When you buy the pans, they come in a box and it slides out of this little sleeve. And then you have this cork, kind of thin cork, with this kind of like, I want to call it like a portable mixing palette. It's a resistant paper that you can mix on and the paint won't seep into it. But then the weird thing is with their packaging, they give you this swatches sheet with the color names on it that's made of the same material as the mixing. So it's like, why would I swatch, I don't know, my brand new paints on something that they're not going to seep into? It just, design wise, that doesn't really like make sense to me. So honestly, this little, if you want to swatch it, you can, but it's kind of like useless. It's not an accurate representation of the colors because it's not a watercolor paper made of cotton, so the colors don't seep into it. But other than that, I would say the packaging is beautiful. It's so travel friendly, and that is what Viviva Colors strives for. They market themselves as a lightweight palette that's perfect for traveling, urban sketching, those sorts of things. And that's initially what drew me to them. I was like, ooh, I love how thin, I love how light this is, and I love how portable it is. I can just pack it in with my sketchbook and one brush, and I'm good to go. A note about the Vivia products, I said I do have the sheets, and yes, you would think that these are more travel friendly because of their size. They're smaller than the palettes, but I actually hate them for travel. And let me explain why. It's nothing to do with the quality of the paint, which I think is top tier. It's gorgeous, it's vibrant, it's amazing. It's more to do with the delivery system and the way that they designed how to use these paints because they come in a booklet. And in order to use them, you have to open and flip through to get to different colors. And the way that you activate these paints is by taking a wet brush and reviving the color that's in the sheet. But say you want to go to a new color, you're constantly flipping back and forth between sheets. And if you're getting the sheets wet, they're dripping and running, and it's just not an enjoyable user experience in my opinion. So I kind of stopped using those for travel despite how much I loved the colors, which is like, okay, I'll buy the originals palette to replace the originals color sheets. But another little note to know, they are not the same colors. I should have read the fine print on the website. I would think original and original would be the same, and it's just the delivery method for the paint. But no, the original pans are completely different colors than the original sheets. So just keep that in mind when you're purchasing because it is important, and I do love the sheets more than I love the original pans. All right, let's talk about the durability of the packaging because I would say this is an A plus. This cork, despite being so light and thin, has really weathered the test of time. You can see after using it for 8 months here that it's warped a little bit, but it's honestly not bad. Like, I think it's excellent for what it's been through because I've taken these paints all over the place. All right, let's move on to the most exciting part of this review, which is the color, because Viviva Colors are known for their intense, beautifully saturated, bright colors, and they do not disappoint. These colors, I think they're ink based or dye based, and that obviously gives it a very saturated, beautiful pop and feel when you're painting with them. As far as color range goes, I think Viviva did an excellent job at creating a little bit for everyone. I know that a lot of other watercolor brands, they'll do like the nature set and it'll be greens and blues and browns and more of that style. Or they'll do neons and it'll be all bright colors. And I think Viviva kind of did a really good job of catering to all these niches and getting a little bit of something in all of their colors. Between the three products that I have, I feel like I have every color that I could need or want, but that's only because I have the original sheets. If I didn't have those sheets, I would be sorely lacking a nice dark value. Like, I'm a Payne's Gray person, but the sheets come with a slate black, and that is really beautiful, and I love having it. But when I just take the pans by themselves, I feel like I'm lacking something to go ahead and mix a really dark value quickly. And yes, I know I could mix a black, but that's neither here nor there. Sometimes I just want something to darken a color really quickly, and I reach for Payne's Gray. If you're kind of trying to decide between the pans, I would go for the Spring Pan. And this is because it has an opera rose color, and I don't know what Viviva Color calls this pink, but it's just basically a nice vibrant pink. It's not a red, it doesn't have those deep tones. It's like more of a magenta if you're talking about cyan, magenta, and yellow. It's more of a bright pink and is excellent for mixing. But the originals pans, they don't have this pink, so it's a little difficult. But they do, however, have, and I think this is really weird that they added this, they have a white pan in the originals palettes. And I'm like, why? If you're painting, you're a watercolor painter and you want something to be more white, people tend to just let the paper shine through. It's a different story for gouache. Like, completely understand having a gouache tube if that's something that you're into to lighten your colors, because you want to maintain the like thick consistency because it's almost an opaque medium. But this is watercolor, so I really felt like that was a cop out to throw a white in their originals palette. I definitely could have used like their slate black or maybe their whatever their equivalent of an opera rose in there. Okay, so how vibrant and saturated are these colors? They are off the charts, and this is one of the main reasons, aside from the travel factor, that I continue to buy these products despite how expensive they are and how little paint you get. I just I'm addicted to how bright and beautiful these colors are. And I know not everyone likes really saturated colors, but I came from a graphic design background, so I was used to creating art that had a light behind the screen. So I'm used to that really, really bright, vibrant, beautiful art. And I'm always trying to recreate that in my analog practice. Okay, let's move on to the best paper for them. And I'm just gonna cut to the chase. This is no shock because it's a watercolor paint. So obviously, no surprise, the best paper for them is the Arches Cold Press 300 GSM paper. I just think they perform really well on this paper because the inks seep into the cotton fibers of the paper, and not only do they sink in, but they're still really malleable. Like you can feel the movement, the user experience when painting with these paints. And Arch's cold pressed watercolor paper is unmatched. It's gorgeous. And then your end result is beautiful, vibrant, bright. It's actually what I'm painting on right now during this demo. But that's a rare occasion. I did that especially for the video because I wanted it to be beautiful. But 95% of the time, I am using these paints in my Strathmore Mixed Media sketchbook. And I think they're really beautiful in my sketchbook as well. They're not as vibrant, but that's not their fault. I think that's more to do with mixed media paper. They are watercolors, so they're going to pair best with watercolor paper. I also tried them on the Strathmore watercolor paper, and they are very vibrant on that as well. But they don't have the same user experience on that. They more so sit on top of the paper than seeping into them, and they don't move and blend as much. Which brings me to my next point, mixing. How well do these colors blend and layer and glaze? And oh, they are a 10 out of 10 for mixing. Not only do they mix on the paper really, really well, like you can't even tell that you use two colors. These ink-based watercolors, they want to be mixed, and then you get these multi-hued, rich, beautiful undertones. It's captivating to work with. You can see in this painting that I sometimes lay down a layer of a certain color and then I'll come back in while it's still wet and add another tone to it. And they mix seamlessly. I love it. In addition to that, they also layer and glaze really well. Like if you wait for it to dry and then you come back in with wet, it's like it feels like magic. It's like so gorgeous. I'm addicted to doing it with these paints. But I will note that lifting with them, if you wait for it to dry, like say you paint a bunch of leaves and then you want to go in and lift a vein out of all those leaves, with other watercolors that I have, this is completely possible. You can wait for watercolor to dry and then you can reanimate it with water and it will lift seamlessly. But with these dye-based paints, that is a different story. That's not to say that you can't lift with them. They lift really, really well if they're still wet. But once they dried, it's like something happens to them. They lock into the fibers of the paper and they do not pull up easily. Okay, the last couple things I want to talk about are granulation. I am so not a fan of granulation. I love a smooth, seamless look. So if you like granulation, maybe these paints are not for you because they are smooth and clean and beautiful. And then the last thing I want to note is the drying shift because like most watercolors, they do dry substantially lighter, and I think that's why I'm not scared to like really layer it on. But in that same tone, I've heard a lot of people kind of note on how quickly, myself included, they go through the Viviva Color sheet and their Viviva Color pans because they use so much of it and it dries a little bit lighter, but they go through it really, really fast. And I think I wish that Viviva Color, they offered more paint, like maybe double, because I did run out. I did hit pan very, very quickly, but it didn't stop me from buying another pan set and it didn't stop me from trying out the sheets. So that is everything I wanted to talk about with these paints. I hope you enjoyed this review and found it useful. I will continue to buy this brand. I definitely recommend it, especially for beginners. It's fun to hop into watercolor and have that wow factor right off the bat. So I really I really admire that this company went the extra mile to make something extra bright, but like I said, they're not completely Winsor & Newton price tag. So you're getting these bright paints, you're getting a lot of colors, but you're not paying that Winsor & Newton price tag, and I think that's really awesome for beginners and intermediate painters. If you're a professional painter, I don't know, you may not like these. You may want something more higher quality, and honestly, I haven't tested the light fastness because I don't do commission pieces. I mostly paint in my sketchbook, and then every now and then I'll do something on arches, but I haven't tested the light fastness. So I can't speak to that for you guys, but I hope you found the rest of this really helpful and it helps you make a decision on whether or not this product is worth the hype. Thanks for hanging out. Until next time.